Okay, so I should be live. I'm not sure if anyone's joined in yet, but let's just wait around. Let me just see if. So okay, so I think people are just coming in. Let me just have a look of how this appears on YouTube and the other platforms. So great. So I got a few questions on Instagram that I'd asked, so I have a few there, and I can already see some people populating the chat, which is great. Um, so I just woke up from a quick nap, so I'm quite wary in that sense. But okay, so I'm new to StreamYard as well, but I think I can populate the stream with questions. So yeah, so I think Sankalp's asking me about how the lockdown's treating me. It's been good. So as you know, I've been started off a podcast, so that's pretty cool. Like I get to talk to interesting people from different areas, different yeah, just like as the name of the podcast go, all walks of life. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, that's been great in a sense that I've been able to chat to people and just widen my way of looking at the world, which is what we need, I think, in the day and age that we are living in. So yeah, I see there aren't any as such questions on the chat right now. So I'll take some of the questions I got via messages that I got. So yep. So this was a particular question that came in from Raghav, who I think sent it to me on my Instagram. So this question says that should Real Madrid, so Real, I'm guessing Real Madrid in that sense, should they sack Zinedine Zidane? See now, the thing with this is that at least how I look at it is Zidane's. I think Zidane's done quite well. I think didn't they win the league last year with him? Obviously, they've been knocked out of the Champions League this season, and I think I've spoken about this to the people I have spoken about the situation going on at Real. Is that I feel Real almost need a person who isn't a coach, if that makes sense, but a manager and someone who can actually control the dressing room. And in that sense, it almost comes down to this aspect of man management rather than coaching at the highest of levels. And Mourinho's talked a lot about this. That often what is that their job is more of a job of, let's say, simply managing personalities, managing their egos, and even massaging egos to some extent, which was what Zidane was doing really well in his early phases at Real when they did well in the Champions League and the league as well. So it's a tough one, man. I would still stick with him if I was Real, um, but obviously the expectations that club has is different. I have a few I have a few things coming in. I have a few things coming in via the chat. Okay, so it says Gulp Varshne. I think I'll put this on again. Do you have a preview for an episode? How do you? Oh, sorry, rather. So yeah, I'm back again. Do bear with me with my internet. My internet's not the best, but yeah. So I was answering this question about how I prepare for an episode. Um, the general way I look at things is that when I go into any conversation with anybody, really, I like to have um, three times as much subject matter, if that makes sense. When I'm going into a conversation, or if someone asks me about anything, really, I feel that what that allows you to do is, if you are talking about something, you can almost pull threads while you are talking about it, and then that allows you to navigate different possibilities and different topic areas, which is such a great thing, because I'm not someone who'd refer to his notes most of the time, even though I'd like to prepare in a way that I take notes, but almost not look at them even when I'm having a conversation, if that makes sense. So that's sort of the way I look at it when I'm preparing for an episode. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Okay, see over here it says that I have commented that do you think communism would be good for India? But obviously there's someone else who's put it forward, and anyone who knows me and and has heard me talk about communism, if you want to say, or anything that's so radical. I mean, I find the ideology reprehensible, really. Um, and even if you are talking in an Indian context, I don't think I feel communism. Let's see, politically, philosophically, and even economically, I don't find that as viable. I think so, and it's just so wrong that people still have that conception that it's never been done right, and if I was put in charge, whoever that person is in is in this scenario, who is talking about this ideology, let's say, would say that just because it hasn't been done right in the past, if I was put in charge, I would almost do it better than instances that have happened in the past, which it's beyond me. Like, I mean, like, I often talk about things that happened in Soviet Russia, and in regards to the kulaks, and how they were treated back in the day. And if anyone knows anything about Soviet Russia and how they went about things there, they would not even consider bringing it up in conversations. See, but then this is another thing I like to talk about when I am talking about things like free speech, is that however reprehensible or however radical you may find an ideology, you still have to have it be in the general landscape of things. So and that's because it's questioning your biases and where your biases come from. Because who is to say the way you are looking at the world is right, right? So I wouldn't agree with it, and even so, in an Indian context, in any context, really, I don't find that I don't find the ideology as enriching as some people do. So yeah, no, I don't think so. Obviously, so there aren't any more in the chat box. So I'll go towards some of the things I got via message. Um, so yeah, I think this was another question that came in from Raghav. So he asks me any genuine title challenges for the Prem or the UCL. Um, so let's start with the Premier League. In terms of the Premier League, I'd say however much Liverpool are struggling with their injuries, and and you may say I'm biased in that sense, but I genuinely feel that Liverpool have a really good setup in that case, and it's this aspect of and I talk about this. Some people may not agree with me. Whatever players we have on the pitch, because of our system, because of the way players are trained in our system, in let's say a gegen pressing, high pressing system that we have, the system is, and I think Klopp has this quote that the system is the best playmaker. And what I mean by that is, even if we have major players missing, the the players who are constantly being trained in that particular system for such a large period of time, I feel it pays off, and that's sort of the reason why I still have a lot of belief in our squad. And to be honest, we've still done well without. So Liverpool's still done well without some of the key players who have been missing. I mean, Jota has been an absolute blessing since he's come onto the scene. the types of goals he's scoring, and even adding another dimension to the Liverpool front three. So now it becomes a front four really, with the dynamism he has. And I'm really looking forward to the game against Wolves, because obviously he'll have something to say against them. Other than that, some people have said that Chelsea will look good. I don't really rate Lampard that much. Um, I know some people probably criticize me for that, especially Chelsea fans. Chelsea fans think he's doing a good job. I'd like to believe I believe the contrary in that sense. I don't think Lampard's that great of a coach. I think Chelsea will wear off as the season goes on. But if you actually look at it, I think Spurs are doing a relatively good job in terms of their XG. So what XG is, for the people who don't know, is expected goals. Is historically if you have a number of shots from a particular area on the pitch, it depicts how likely it is to go in, considering the amount of defenders there are in front of that particular attacker, who is the particular attacker, and what type of shots he's taken over the years, what particular foot is he on. So if he's on his weaker foot on his preferred foot, how likely is he going to score from there? And things like the angle at which he's shooting the ball, as well as the goalkeeper who's in question. So how often has that goalkeeper saved a particular shot from that particular area with the amount of defenders that are in front of him. So I was looking at the XG table. If I can just pull it up today, XG Premier League. Let me just share my screen as I pull it up. So yeah, so let me just share my screen. I'm actually surprised there are actually few people who are in and actually watching me do this, which is bizarre in itself. Thank you guys for tuning in. Like I wouldn't expect anyone to really ask me any question. I'm not an expert on anything. I just have an opinion for almost things really. But okay, so the thing I was showing you was this XG table. So this clearly shows. So even if Tottenham are top of the league right now, so if I sort this table out by expected points, okay, so it does show me that Chelsea are doing well, which probably shows me that everything I've been speaking about is proper nonsense. Um, but I still genuinely feel so. Spurs are quite top up there, but I still genuinely feel that Chelsea will pay off as the season goes on. But who am I to say? That's just my opinion, though. So yeah, okay. So there are quite a few things coming on in the chat. Okay, so I guess I'll take. Wait. So yeah. I guess I'll take this one. Best guess till now. Okay. Sorry, guys. I just have this habit of sipping onto water most of the time, so do bear with me. So a Nehu travel, I'd say the best guest I've had till now has been. So it's difficult because I love every conversation I go into. It's like I love having conversations in people. Period, and it's really difficult for me to pick one that's been my favorite, let's say, or even let's say the best guest. I wouldn't say best guest because I've enjoyed having everyone on in that sense. But I'd say there are some conversations that have intrigued me more than others have, and some conversations where I've taken more away from that particular conversation than I have with others. And in that sense, I'm forgetting which episode it was, but it was with this mythologist, and I think I've mentioned this on my other social media platforms as well. His name is Mr. Utkarsh Patel. So he's a mythologist who's based out of Mumbai and teaches at Mumbai University. And he talks a lot about mythology. He talks a lot about myths, which is something that really intrigues me. And the conversation I had with him was probably the best I've had so far on my podcast. And it's because we we sort of tackled on to some of the questions that I often think about. So things like we understand that there is scientific truth, but to what extent can we base society on scientific truth, if that makes sense? So have scientific truth almost and can we even ground morals on scientific truth, if that makes sense? And that's sort of the reason why, however trivial, however primitive we might find what's it called, myths to be, and some of them are really ridiculous. Like if you look at the Old Testament, there's like even an evil snake that comes up and it's like, oh, drink, eat that fruit, otherwise something will happen to you. So it may seem very, very arbitrary to us and something that's very primitive, but there's a deeper lying metaphysic to it. Like the most recent conversation I had on my podcast, I think Eric's on here as well. I'll get to his question later on. Uh, but so we were talking about this aspect of, so I told him that there is scientific truth, but like how can we, like there's so many facts in the world, like, and that's sort of the reason I have a problem with postmodernism as well. So postmodernism says that, and this is the only thing they probably get right, so they say that there are infinite ways of looking at the world, which is true. However, they say that all value systems and all ways of looking at the world are equally true, which in my opinion is wrong, because there is only so few value systems that actually tell us something in a way we can orient ourselves in the world, if that makes sense. So for example, I have, let's say, some supplements with me, all right, and to what extent of my knowing that, let's say, that particular supplement has some sort of nutritional information in it, that's great, right? Like, let's say it has 7 grams of something, let's say calcium for uh, this matter of fact. But what will I do with that? What will I do with that particular information? It's not going to tell me something transcendent that, let's say, in the coming generations to come, um, that particular fact can be emphasized and be focused on, to say that, oh, that's almost the way you should aspire to be. That's something you should work towards. However primitive that might sound, and that's sort of the reason why we are so intrigued by archetypes. So if you look at archetypes in, and this is very well presented, I'd say, in things like Disney movies. So Disney movies, and even Harry Potter books for that matter, like it's beyond me. Like if you look at things like kids of the age of 9 to 10 are reading 500-page novels. I mean, that's never happened. That the fact that an author has become richer than the Queen of England, like J.K. Rowling, like, and it's happened because there's a deeper lying metaphysic to it, in the sense that people can really associate themselves to those characters. Things like like the character of Harry Potter, in the sense that, and the trio that they have with Ron and Hermione, that yes, they will play by the books, but it's also to understand the nature of human behavior, that they will twist the rules once in a while, if that means that it procures, it saves a higher noble cause, if that is. So I know I went on a tangent, but I hope that answers the question. So yes, by far I'd say Mr. Utkarsh has been my favorite conversation I've had now on my podcast, and I'm looking forward to having him on it as well. Oh yeah, so another thing regarding Utkarsh, so was that, so he's asked me to, we're probably going to be doing an Instagram live together, because he has this great event that's coming up, and I hope I can show it to you guys online right now. It's called the Mythological Fest, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Mythological Fest. Let me see. Mythol. Yep, this is it is. So let me just share my screen with you guys as well. Um, Yep. So hopefully you guys can see this. So yeah, so I'd really recommend you guys follow this particular Instagram account. So they'll be having some really cool, like some of the speakers that they've mentioned on here are like really intriguing. Some people like theologians are going to come on here, linguists are going to come on. So I'm really looking forward to this. And so yeah, as I was saying, Utkarsh has been my favorite guest I've had as of now. And yeah, just stay tuned to my conversation with him on Instagram as well. Like, I'm going to have an Instagram live with him soon. Okay, let's move on to another question. At this rate, we'll do like 5 questions or something at the rate we're going at. Okay. Okay, I guess I'll. So I'm already on. Okay, so yeah, I'll take this one. So Anehu travel. Okay, that's another question, but I'll take it because obviously there are a few others I have to get to. But considering we don't have a lot of people watching, I might as well. Aspire to start a podcast. How easy slash difficult to attract guests? How did you get someone like Daniel G? Okay, so hey, that's great that you want to start a podcast. I feel that more people need to start podcasts, especially in the Indian context. I'm referring to my conversation with Eddie because he was the last person I had on my podcast in that sense. And I told him to start a podcast off as well because I feel if you look at the West in that sense, if you look at America, if you look at the UK, everyone, let's say if you want to call them an influencer or something like that, they generally have a way of speaking to their audience, and it's often through a podcast. And what that allows you to do is like something I'm doing right now. I've already done like 20 minutes, and I've just probably just cleared my throat, if that makes sense. The point I'm trying to make here is that it really allows you to sit down with people, have a conversation, and actually see where those people you're speaking to are coming from. Because and I've spoken about this, and this is the primary reason why I started my podcast was if you look at the general media, people, politicians, journalists, whoever it is who are on those platforms, or credit to them, they're doing a great work. But then they almost believe that the general media are dumb to some extent, and they can only have 7 minute clips of anything important, and they almost have to segment them with let's say ads and things like that. Well, I don't really enjoy that particular model, and this can simply be me. Like, and that's why I'm a big fan of the Joe Rogan experience. And so what he did was that he had like 3 hour long conversations. And see, for the most part, like I think for the first 100 or so episodes, there were barely few people watching. But the essence is that, and his channel grew because he was simply having a conversation with people sitting down. I know I'm not entirely answering your question, but I'd say that yes, man, go for it. Coming to the other parts of your question, because it's a three-way question in that sense. How easy or difficult is it to attract guests? I'd say I'd say it's relatively easy. Um, in that sense, it depends on the types of guests you're looking for. But in my experience, at least for the most part, if I put an email out there, like, so what I do is so I think I'm able to market myself well on platforms like LinkedIn, especially, and through that it allows me to speak to people who I'm interested in. And and generally I feel that people like having conversations, and if you are actually asking them for an opinion, for the most part they would agree. So yeah, man, that's the way I look at it. I look at whoever I find interesting. I generally ping them an email and say that if they'd like to have a conversation. And it's all right to be rejected, because if you're starting off, who even are you, if that makes sense? I've got like 200 subscribers, which is nothing compared to, let's say, asking these people to even spend an hour or two having a conversation with a relatively nobody, in that sense. So, but for the most part, people are willing to have a conversation, man. That's what I've taken away. So yeah, just shoot your shot, I'd say. Okay. Okay, so I don't quite understand this. What's with the T? T for what? T where? I'm not able to figure this out. If you are still on here, feel free to come back and reply, because I have no idea which T you're talking about. Uh, all right. Let's have this question. Okay, so Nandini asks me, who's your favorite author and book? Um, that's a tough one. Like, I know it's not going to be a book that's very this particular book I'm referring to. It's by Walter Isaacson. I read this I think 3 or 4 years back. It was Steve Jobs' biography. If I can find it, I'll just share my screen because I found that great. Like, 1 second, Walter Isaacson, Steve Jobs. Let me share my screen again. Yep. So yeah. So this book, right? So it's a biography. I know some people don't like reading biographies, but I found this really great. Like, not only not only telling the story of Steve Jobs, but also the manner in which it's actually written. And I feel it's great, man. Like the stuff Walter Isaacson he portrays Steve Jobs' life is great. Like you feel like you're almost there, and experiencing the life he lives in California and the way he started building Apple with his friend Wozniak, and the journeys he went through. And it's fascinating, man. Like the way he talks about it, how they take trips to India, how he explores certain religions even. I found it really riveting in that sense. So I'd say Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson, who, by the way, I think I've not read any other of his works, but I've heard the other biographies he has out. I think he's written some other top-notch biographies, so I'll probably add them to my list as well. So yeah, I'd say Walter Isaacson's Steve Jobs for sure. Yeah, so that covers favorite author and favorite book together, I guess. Um, I've answered that. So, Anehu Travel asks, understat.com, one of my personal favorites. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Like, I haven't come across this particular website myself, but I'm guessing it's something to do with football because because it has stats in it, or an understats. Or I'm probably guessing it's something like who scored, or that it tells you numerical stuff about football. But that's my guess, really. I don't have an idea. Such. Hmm. So Sankalp asked me again that who would be your dream guest for your podcast, dude? That's a great question. Like there's so many people I'd love to have on. Um, like some people know my love for Pankaj Tripathi. I find him an absolutely great actor, and even the way he talks about not only his acting method, but the way he looks at life, even I think he's a pretty sorted out character, and I'd love to have a chat with him. Dude, but he's so cool. Like like just to harp on a little bit about him, is that he talks like it's just such a simplistic way of looking at the world, and even and this is why I feel he deserves what everything he's getting. Not just because he's such a great actor, which he clearly is, but also the path he's taken. So he's put himself through acting school, which he's done tremendously well in. But he's also not shied away from just throwing himself at the opportunities that he's gotten, however few they may be. So yeah, I'd say Pankaj Tripathi, man. I think he's such a cool guy. I'd love to speak with him sometime. Other than that, there's so many, man. Like it's hard to fixate on just one. But other than that, like Jordan Peterson, like I find him an absolutely fascinating character. Someone I really look up to in that sense. I know there are several people who disagree with some of the things he says, uh, but I find him really great, man. Like he's a great intellectual, and I'd love to speak with him sometime. Yeah, I'd say those are my two dream guests I'd love to have on my podcast. So yeah. Okay, so I don't see anything else coming in. Um, so yeah, I'll possibly be ending it as of now because I don't see anything else coming through. But yeah, I mean, I think half an hour is not too bad if that is. So thanks you guys for tuning in. I know. So this would obviously be on my YouTube channel as it is, so you can let me just clear this stuff out. Yeah. So yeah, later on you can tune in and watch some of my answers to the questions I've given. Okay. As I see questions coming in, I might as well take them, to be honest, because I have time. It's just that there weren't any questions coming in, so I thought, right. Okay, I'm gonna take this one. So, what's wrong with the ISL? So, for the people who aren't aware, the ISL is the Indian Super League. Um, what I find wrong with the ISL, so many things, but just to start things off, I'd say um, until recently, I don't think it's been a league, then it has been a tournament. So I think that's something that's fundamentally wrong in the way it's approached, in the sense that it's looked upon as the major league in India, even if it isn't a league, if that makes sense. I'm not so sure if they've changed the platform because I haven't looked into it as much. But at least there are at least they are talking about implementing it as a tier system, so they have promotion and relegation, which would clearly be the best way to go ahead. So that's clearly one thing that I find that they have to fix up. I find the stuff in the management, and I think there's a lot of corruption that happens. So recently there's this thing that the state federations in India, they initiated, just simply asking for having an election, which is a totally reasonable thing to ask for in any governing body in that sense. And I feel that until and unless that stuff isn't sorted out, that there would be issues with any institution really. Like the fact that something as fundamental as an election going through, it's beyond me. Yeah, so something it's not only with football in that sense. Like I think cricket has sorted out their act a little better here. I think cricket has sorted out their act a little better here in the fact that what's it called? So they have actual cricketers who are cricketers or sports individuals who are part of their governing bodies and are the ones who are leading these organizations ahead, which I think is which I think is a great thing. Not to say that only sports individuals should be leading, let's say, sports based organizations ahead, but the fact that you have political party, you almost have to become a political party member or a leader to be a part to head, let's say, an institution like the AIFF, which is the All India Football Federation, and not be someone who has a backing in football, but rather in politics, which is clearly wrong, in my opinion. So I'd say those are a couple of the things which are wrong. But I can go on for so many more, man. Like so, there's this aspect. So like in the ISO, there's this fixation that people have with foreigners and the amount of foreign coaches that have generally come in. Um, so that's one thing in the sense that like Albert Roca, and I think he's done good things at the club. But the fact that he was a fitness coach at Barcelona, and he clearly came in and simply slotted in as a professional head coach of probably the best side in India in that sense, in Bangalore FC, and 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 did so well. So simple things like that, man. I think if there is a little more professionalism, let's say, and if players contracts can be met at the times they are supposed to, and this is not only a thing in India, so I'm not only circling them out, but it's with other Asian leagues as well, because of the way the revenue pool works. So it's just going to take time, man. Virendra Kumar, you're doing amazing. Keep it up. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. Okay, so again, so Nandini points out that check the Facebook chat for questions. Oh, I thought that this was giving me all. I thought that this chat box was giving me, because I'm using StreamYard for anyone who isn't sure, and I thought that this was giving me all the questions from all the streams. But clearly, I have to do a little more work. So let me just see if there are any other questions on Facebook. Mm-hmm. Oh, I could just simply click there. God, sorry guys, bear with me. Me on Facebook. Oh, okay. So there are quite a few questions here actually. Thanks for Nandini. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay, so mm-hmm. All right. So I guess I'll take this one. Just copy that and create a banner. Yep. So okay, so this one comes in from Raja. So he's asking, how do you think probability works? Probability rather, profitability. God. Oh, probability, like in what sense? Oh, I think this was in reference to my question about when I was talking about what was I talking about? When I was talking about expected goals and those sorts of things, is it in relation to that? I'm guessing it is, because other than that, I haven't really spoken about probability. So in terms, so like, do you want me to explain the whole concept of expected goals and how it goes about things? Because I sort of have already done that, in the sense that if you look at players taking shots from certain areas of the pitch, that almost tells us that how likely it is for that particular ball to go in from that particular angle, based on historical data that the player has taken shots from that particular angle. And more complex XG models have also look at, let's say, defenders in front of that particular angle, and how many defenders there are, how what sort of a defensive shape they're employing, and even look into the goalkeepers and the sorts of saves that the goalkeepers have made through the years, saving things from that particular attacker, the shot the ball's been struck. So that there's several things that go into it, and that's how they sort of formulate particular numerical. They assign a numerical value to what is it called, that particular shot or that particular thing. So yeah, I don't know if I've been able to explain it well. Okay. So there are quite a few questions. Like, I won't say quite a few. There are a few more here. So yeah, as players do have emotional part as well on a particular day. Oh, okay. So this was again in relation to that as well. Like, I would say yes, and that's why it's not a perfect model by any stretch of the imagination. But if you simply compare it to shots on target, or shots, or things like completed passes, or assists, or hockey assists, or things like that, it's a much more superior model to look at it. I totally understand that there faults with any model, and especially the XG. Like, there's so many more things the XG must take into consideration. But considering the rest of the data we have available to us, that football makes use of, it's the most superior as of now. Right. Okay, so this is another question which comes up. I'm sorry, I can't really pop it onto the screen there because this is on a different chat room. So it says, what is fitness according to you? Thanks for the question. It depends, I'd say. Um, I would say fitness is fitness. It's when I'd say an individual is fit when he's able to perform at his maximum potential, if that makes sense. And this can be physically and cognitively. So obviously with physical fitness and mental fitness, which is another big thing. So yeah, that's how I'd like to define fitness. Let me just see the people viewing on Periscope rather, which is the Twitter platform. I'm not so sure, but hey. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so it appears to me that there aren't any other questions coming in, and let me just have a look at YouTube once again. Yep, so that's about it, I guess. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, I'd like to keep this sort of monthly if I can, and try to ask questions, because I generally get a few questions on. So there's the YouTube Studio, which allows you to see comments and things that come in. And sometimes people have interesting questions that I'd like to take on, but I'm not able to if I am simply replying to them via the messaging board on YouTube, or any other platform really. So I feel this sort of allows me to branch and talk about things that I'm not able to otherwise. So yeah, thanks a lot for coming in, guys, and hope to see you next month. So yeah, bye.